Here's every single change that EA have made to the tracks on F1 22. Shout out to EA for making this possible, by the way. So I've got the full game then. I'm a very, very lucky boy. It is still an early access build. And as you can probably hear, I'm a little bit under the weather at the moment, but I could not miss the opportunity to show you guys some brand new F1 22 content. And I'm going to show you every single track that has undergone some sort of change. Now, I will say, I'm not going to show you the kind of visual differences. Pretty much all the tracks have had some sort of sponsorship changes and that kind of thing, but no one really cares if a sponsor board over there is changed from one sponsor to another. Who really cares? I want to concentrate on the actual physical track changes. So let's get into it. So one of the bigger changes then, of course, is the Australian circuit. A brand new layout this year. Quite a few corners have actually changed, and it's actually changed the flow of the circuit quite a bit. So coming down here into turn 1, you see inset in the top right, we've got F1 2021, which I recorded at the launch of the 2021 game last year. All running ultra settings, by the way, but of course all assists off as well. Coming to the first sector then, not a lot's changed up until now. These curves on the right hand side here have changed ever so slightly, just a little bit easier to ride. Same as on the left here, all the curves a little bit easier. They've removed this sausage curve on the right hand side there. This corner's pretty much exactly the same. Can't really detect any change to there. This is the first actual corner that has changed for the game. As you can see, they're a lot faster. Stayed in 6th gear that time, much quicker through there. And now this section has completely changed. Completely flat out here. They've completely removed the corner, basically moved the whole chicane. Completely flat out all the way through here. Coming to the fast chicane now. Fast chicane hasn't really changed at all. I don't think they've removed the bottom of the inside, but other than that, I don't really think it's changed. Slightly different colouring on the curbs. For the most part, it's identical. Now, the next couple of corners has changed again, so once again, you'll break later here. It's a bit of a more of a right angle now. The curb's a bit more harsh as well. You can see me having to take a little pause on the throttle. Slightly bigger curb on the exit as well. This corner feels a little bit wider, perhaps. It's a pretty minor change, if so. Coming to final corner, again, the only real change here is going to be the curbs, and the final corner, as far as I'm aware, is pretty much unchanged. Big slide as we come into it there. It's a lot more tricky to handle the rear traction in this year's game. So that's the Australia Grand Prix then. Quite a big change to that. Of course, that's one of the big layout changes this year, but they have done other tweaks at other places as well. It isn't just the main corner changes. A few of the curbs have changed. So moving on then to the Spanish Grand Prix, Barcelona. Again, another one that's had a pretty major change in real life. Come down the start finish straight now then. In the Ferrari, once again, you've got inset top right there, the F1 2021 hot lap from last year. So you see the curbs already a little bit different in turn 1. Definitely the lines changed slightly as well, because you can't take quite so much curb. You generally don't want to have be riding the curb with the middle of your car anymore. Turn 3 pretty much unchanged. Turn 4 pretty much unchanged. They've put some new braking meter boards there, which make it a little bit easier, but other than that, pretty much unchanged. Coming into, I guess this is turn 5, is it? I'm not too sure. Slight change here again. You've got a bit more curb on the inside now to use. Also on the outside, you've got that kind of chevron curve on the outside there, which helps a little bit. Another little change into here as well. Again, it's primarily curb change. You've got the 3 little mini sausage curbs there and the big sausage curb on the right hand side. Again, similar for here, just curb changes really. There's no real layout changes. The next bit though is the big layout change really. Massive difference. Instead of quite a tight left, you've got quite an open left. Getting also down, obviously different curbing here as well, running it out quite wide, probably a bit too wide to be honest, but I managed to bring it back fairly nicely. A little bit of a longer layout of course because of that as well. Come for the long right hand side again. Not much has changed really in this section. It's all large. They may have done maybe some very minor tweaks, but for the most part it feels the same. Even all these curves feel pretty much identical. Bit of a sausage curve on the exit, just like real life. We come through the final turn again. Not a lot of changes here. So primarily layout changes there, plus a few curve tweaks here and there, but they don't make a massive difference. I'd say the bigger difference through the corners that haven't changed on that one is actually just to do with the new handling model. Coming into the Abu Dhabi now, okay, the final circuit that has actually undergone major changes in real life. Coming to turn 1, this is pretty much unchanged. I can't really detect any changes at all, to be honest, through turn 1. Again, the same through this very fast kinks here. Looks pretty much identical to me. Now, coming up now is the very first big layout change. Instead of turn left here, you go straight on, braking super late, getting it all slowed down. Hitting my apex nicely, trying to get a good exit. I always struggled with that one in the game. It was always a bit too tight of a hairpin, so they've opened it out slightly with that layout, which is a little bit nicer. As far as I'm aware, the straight hasn't really changed at all, to be honest. Same with this next little chicane here. Between the straights, nothing here that I can detect really has changed. Certainly not in any significant way. It doesn't really change your line or anything like that. You tend to avoid the curbs for the most part. Coming down the back straight now, the second back straight, and this is going to come to a corner here that's had a massive overhaul. They've cut out 2 or 3 corners in order to make this layout change. Coming through here, then you've got to brake super late, really carry the speed. It's quite a difficult one actually because it's so long. There's actually a couple of apexes through that one, but managed to do it quite nicely. Coming to the right side here, there's a big dip in the track just there. There's a big bump, as you can see, and all these corners here have been widened just ever so slightly. They're all a little bit faster. You can see how much we are up on the F1 2021 time. They're all just a bit faster here. Still quite challenging though. There's still quite a lot of camber going on little bit of off-camber. The curbs are still quite tricky. That's almost flat through there. Probably is flat with a bit more confidence. And the final turn is pretty much unchanged. So again, Abu Dhabi primarily changes there. That has been made in real life, but actually I think I prefer it. I don't know, it's changed the circuit quite a lot. I'd say that's probably the biggest change that they've made, to be honest. As I said, obviously that's one they've done in real life, but yeah, not bad at all. Going on to now the more minor changes. So a couple of circuits here that haven't had a change in real life, not a significant change anyway, but Codemasters or EA have decided to do a big update for them. So this is COTA then, this is the Circuit of the Americas for the US Grand Prix, and they pretty much changed all the curbs on this circuit, but to be honest, it doesn't make a massive difference to how you drive the circuit. Here, this fast section is the biggest changes. You see they've got those sort of mini aggressive sausage curbs. Now in real life, if you smash into them, you're possibly breaking suspension. In the game, for some reason, you can still ride them, which surprises me because it is normally a bit more harsh over the curbs this game. But yeah, you can still ride them. So although the curbs have been changed in that first sector, it doesn't actually change how you drive it slightly strangely. And again, they've kind of tweaked the curbs all around the circuit, to be honest. I mean, here the curbs haven't really changed. But for the most part, they've just sort of tweaked them here and there, added, little sausage curbs. I'm sure you guys can notice probably more changes than even I can. But other than that, no real big layout changes for this one. There's, I can recall a big curb change in the final turn, but let's do the end of the back straight first and foremost. Again, all these curbs, as far as I'm aware, pretty much identical. There's a few sausage curbs on the outside there. Keep it on the top right there for F1 2201, just so I can kind of try and memorise it. And again, just tweaks here and there. I mean, it's just little sausage curbs been added. Sometimes slightly the length of curbs have been added. But again, for this one in particular, it doesn't actually really change anything. You'd expect those big sausage curbs will actually change the line, but it really doesn't. Some of these curbs, perhaps they would stop starting on 2021, but actually they're just long continuous one. The great example here on the outside there, this is just a really long curb now. It has just been changed very, very slightly, but again, this final turn curb here not been changed at all. So kind of all the curbs have been changed, but it doesn't really change the track, quite oddly, for Circuit Americas. On to next then, Jeddah. Jeddah's undergone some slightly bigger changes than that, I'd say, because Jeddah, obviously that's the one they released quite late. I think they released Jeddah around about when it came out in real life, so they were sort of working off the plans. They also released it quite late in the launch cycle for F1 2021. So they've sort of updated it really to how it is in real life. They moved DRS zones and that kind of thing. So this is sort of a real life update. This curve on the right side here, for example, is one of the bigger changes. The actual layout is pretty much identical. I think the layout is identical, to be honest. This section feels a little bit easier. I'm not too sure why that would be. Perhaps the curves have been tweaked slightly. Not too sure. There used to be a DRS zone on this straight. There is no longer a DRS zone on this straight, just like in real life. This corner feels pretty much identical. Of course, they've changed all the curb colours and that sort of thing. But other than that, this corner feels pretty much identical. With this fast right outside here, again, feels pretty much the same. Curbs, again, colours have changed and that kind of thing. Still quite bumpy on the exit there, so not too much different. They've added the DRS zone now down this straight compared to last year, again, just to match real life there, which is actually a welcome change. It's quite a long straight in reality. You can't really get the overtakes done in here, but it will allow you to close up on your rivals. Coming through this one, and this one feels a little bit tighter actually than it did last year, but that could be a pure perception thing. It could have been a 2022 car thing, it could have been a F1 22 handling thing, who knows, but it does feel just a touch tighter. Coming to the final turn now, which is, as far as I'm aware, pretty much unchanged. Let's watch it from on board in the top right hand side first. Again, obviously all the colours of the curbs have changed, but as you can see, they're pretty much identical. Other than that, and coming to the start run to the start finish line, the DRS zone here is largely unchanged as well. So Jeddah, again, there's a few changes there, and it does change your line in some ways because the curbs have changed, but for the most part it is just sort of visual changes, although the curbs themselves have changed. Come on to Hungary, the main change to Hungary actually, I want to throw this one in, is because the pit building has been completely overhauled. We'll watch the rest of the lap before we see the pit building again, just to see if there has been any other changes, because most of them remain unchanged, and this will hopefully just give you an idea of how similar a lot of them are year to year. People always going, oh, it's copy and paste and that kind of thing. Of course, it's never quite as simple as that, but also, let's be honest, they haven't got time to re-engineer every single track every year. They just don't have the capacity. We're going to watch Miami next. Of course, Miami, a brand new circuit. And I also believe they're going to release some DLC tracks later this year that we're working on as well. So, I'm sure the track team is completely flat out. They just haven't got time to completely overhaul every single circuit. As you can hear, it is just the same as far as I can gather year to year. We're quite a bit slower than the top right there. Of course, we've got heavier cars this year. And also, there's probably a little setup difference as well, to be honest, that's going on right now. But yeah, I mean, look, the track, as you can see, is identical. As far as I can tell, it's absolutely identical. Obviously, the advertising banners have changed. That's probably a licensing requirement, to be honest, and that's possibly even something they do en masse across all tracks without needing to do it track by track. I could be wrong on that one. That's pretty much the only thing that's changed. But as I said, pit building has changed. Let's keep an eye on the pit building, particularly on the right-hand side here. Massively changed the pit building. So there's now a huge building. So before it's quite an old, smallish building. There's now that huge overhanging building. The grandstand left-hand side has changed. That's the biggest change for Hungary. I want to show you that one. But of course, other than that, unless the sort of pit lanes change, there's not really too many changes really you see on track. Now, Miami then, of course. We have seen Miami before, but I want to show you this one again because this is, of course, brand new to the game. I couldn't do a which tracks have changed in F1 22 without showing you Miami. So, all up here on the latest version of the handling. Of course, I did show you this, probably about a month ago now or so. Miami. The track, as far as I'm aware, is unchanged from the earlier build. Of course, no comparison on this one because it wasn't in last year's game, unsurprisingly. This is a brand new circuit for this year. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the track hasn't been changed at all, but the handling has changed slightly. I will say it just feels a little bit better. I quite like the handling this year. It's quite a challenging handling model. I'd say this game is more traction limited than front limited. Previous games were all about understeer and how to dial out that understeer as much as possible. This game does still understeer in parts. I've noticed bigger changes track to track. That could be a setup thing. Monaco, for example, has a really nice front end now, whereas Miami has got a lot of understeer. Through this right-hand side here, right-hand corner here in particular, look at the amount of understeer I get through. I just can't get it turned, washing out wide. Really difficult corner. I think that could be perhaps the lack of abrasiveness on this circuit, or it could just be purely the setup itself. So, but yeah, as I said, I'm not far aware this track hasn't changed since the last build. The handling model has been tweaked slightly, though. It just feels nice. It just feels a little bit nicer than the last build. Not a massive change, to be honest. It just feels a little bit smoother, a little bit more refined. And as I said, primarily traction limited now. That is really where the time can be won and lost is through traction. A little bit of lock up here coming into the final turn. Ways to lock the brakes as well. And trying to manage the power on the exit there. And there we go then, the run to line for the Miami circuit. So that, guys, is every single track that has undergone changes in F1 22. Now, I will say there was a few other changes that haven't featured in this video. For example, Brazil they've added some sponsor boards to the side of the track. It's not just literally a sponsor, I guess, name change or color change. They have actually added some boards, but the actual layout is absolutely identical. So I didn't want to show you a full lap of that one. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching me. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 100k subs, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.